Hello, welcome to My Messy Fingers. I'm Charlie. I'm going to be playing with a beautiful collection. It's by Grafix 45. It's the Fairy Boutique. I'm playing with what is referenced as a bundled package from Scrap and Create. They've sent me the 12 by 12 pad, the 11 by 12 patterns, the 8 by 8. I have the rub-ons, I have the sticker sheets, and I'm sorry, I already tore into the ephemera, but there it is. And then we have the chipboard pieces, and we have ribbon. So I will be playing with these items, maybe not in their entirety, but I will be playing with them. So let's get started on what we're going to need for our album. I'm going to make this a little bit larger than my typical album because I have a lot more paper to play with. So this is going to be 9 by 9. You'll need 2 of these panels. And then we're going to make a larger spine piece so that there are 8 signatures instead of 6. So this will need to be 2.5 by 9. And then I bind my albums with a product called Tieback. It is actually a shipping envelope. It is absolutely wonderful in that it has great resiliency. There is a great deal of difficulty to try to even tear it. So I put it on the outside. This being the outside, this is where the cardstock is going to be sliding over this, not against this. So I don't see any value of putting this on the inside because there's no friction going on there. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't help anything. So you're going to put it to the outside. And then our cardstock's going to come in behind here. When this opens and closes, cardstock's going to be traveling over the Tyvek, not against the roughness of the edge of the chipboard. Okay? So let's kind of get it all settled and laid out. The other thing you're going to need on this Tyvek, I've got these cut at 8.5 inches long, and they're 2 inches wide. You're going to come in and score it at 7/8 of an inch, and then you're going to score at 1 1/8, which will create a 1/4 inch gusset / hinge. And then we're going to line our chipboard pieces up to that. And then when we bring these all together, you're going to have a nice 1/4 inch hinge here for that flex. And it will help handle the weight and the load of all the signatures that are going on. I am going to be using a spacer. I do have a full set of these. I've got one more spacer, plus it comes with this spatula that's on my website, mymessyfingers.com. And these spacers are great because you can slip this in here and then you can line everything up and you'll get a true 1/4 inch gap, even though we've scored it. But you need to know where to put your Scor tape. So that's why I do it that way. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to pull off the inner tape first. And then I'm going to line this up. Sorry, I've got a shadow here. So I have a shadow, so it's making it hard for me to see. So I'm just going to use my spacer. Okay. Might as well leave it there. I'll take off this piece here. And then I'm going to bring the spine piece in, line it up. And there is that. Let's get in and take this one off. and this one. So once again, 2 by 8.5, scored at 7/8 and scored at 1 1/8. All right, let's take and add on the next piece. Now I've got to straighten this out so that I'm lining everything up here. Press that spacer against there. Line it. Whoops, I just shifted. And line this up. Ta-da! And we're going to get a good burnish. All right, so now we are going to need to cut. Now I'm using Lavender is what this paper's called, and I get all of my papers from cardstockwarehouse.com. It is a solid core. You don't have any white core in there, and it's good paper. You can get it anywhere from 65 pound up to 113 pound on most selections. Some of them are limited, so like the blacks. The cereal black is only available in 100-pound weight. Now, I do play with 100-pound weight. I'm used to it, but it also is nice and sturdy. So now, if you buy from them, just pick up a couple of sheets of the 65-pound weight for wrapping, but buy the 25-pound pack because I almost go through an entire pack. That way you're not having to buy a 25-pound pack in the same color pattern at 65-pound weight, unless you planned on using that color in an abundance. So we're going to need 2 pieces that are going to measure 11 inches by 11 5/8, and you're going to put at least, at a minimum, 3/8 of an inch. Now, having said that, when I put this together and I put my chipboard on here, I've allowed for a 1-inch seam all the way around. So if you put in more tape here, you're going to have to cut these a little bit wider to accommodate that extra wide tape. All right, so let's get this put on here. Line it up, follow that tape line up. I'm going to close my door. I'll be right back. I apologize. Okay, let's give it a good burnish. Now, when I go to attach this, anticipating a 1-inch seam all the way around, I want this seam, this 3/8 of an inch seam that's right here, even though you can only see one part of it, you still got on the reverse side, so you got 3/8 of an inch here. I want that in the middle of the spine as close as possible so that there's equal pressure on that and less tendency for there to be a pull on that seam. I do not like my seams like this or like this. And matter of fact, I don't like them in the middle either, because to me, my eye, it catches it, it's a distraction. Unless I absolutely have to based on the size of the album. So I will center this, make sure that I've got a good inch all the way around. Now I'm going to take 1/2-inch tape on the cardstock, create a framework, and then I'm going to cover the back of this in 1/4 inch tape. So let's start with this guy here. I'm going to get my 1/4 inch tape out here and my 1/2 inch tape. Oh, and 3/8. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so we're going to put that, our first one here. And then I'm going to put the next one down here at the end, one in the middle, and then in the middle of both halves. And for strength, I'm going to add another 1/4 inch strip down here. Then in the middle, and then here. Okay, give them a good burnish. All right, now on this side, we're going to put 3/8 of an inch around the perimeter. We're not putting anything in the center. That will be addressed later on. So 3/8. Okay, so that is our tape coverage for the chipboard. Now let's go ahead and let's cover this, and we're going to use 1/2 inch tape all the way around. Now if you want to do this part in smaller strips, that's perfectly fine. I just do it in one great big long one. I'm going to turn it. Repeat that on this side. And then I'll do the two ends. Okay, let's give it a good burnish. Perfect. Now, We're going to get this centered back in here. And I'm going to make sure, because this is a 1/2 inch, that means my gap needs to be roughly a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to make adjustments accordingly. And now I'm going to palm my hand over here on the left. I'm going to hold it still because I've got this thing where I want it. And I'm going to peel the tape off of this. Okay. Make sure I didn't mess it up there. All right. Now we'll start to take this off. And if you've not made one of my albums before, I'm going to ask that you don't rush this because there's an important step I need to share with you. This Tyvek is very flexible and it moves. So when you grab this, you're going to give a firm tug and then you're going to lay it down, because otherwise if you don't, what you could end up with is this. And then you're stuck trying to get it all apart. You don't want to shrink it by it folding in on itself, so you'll give a firm tug and then lay it down. So let's go ahead and let's get this pulled on this side. And again, nice firm tug, lay it down. I love my spatula, cover lots of ground using that. All right, time to miter our corners. I'm going to turn it, so excuse me. And the last one. Okay. Now, 100-pound cardstock. It can be a bit stiff, so I just start working it forward to bend and break the fibers. We're going to give it a good burnish here. Now, if you want to, I don't do it all the time, but if you want to, if it makes you feel better, you can run a bead of glue right here. Okay. Now here on the end, I'm going to pull this back just a little bit. Fold that out of the way, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. And now I'm going to remove the tape. Not the tape, the paper on the tape. Now, give it a, well, I kind of slipped there, but that's okay. Now starting in the middle, we're going to lay it down, and then, and that's why I removed it, because this would have been under the corner here. Okay, we're going to turn in that corner. And then we're going to turn in this corner. I'm going to pull that. Like I said, this is up to you if you want to do it. I had somebody ask me, how come I don't? So I thought for that person, for the benefit of this video, I would show them that it can be done. Okay, get a good burnish, lay it down. Nice clean corner. Okay, I'm gonna go down here, I'm gonna pull this. Work it to break the fiber. Now we'll take the rest of the paper off. Oh, I know what I forgot to do. Okay. Now we'll work to break that fiber in the paper. Pull it in the center and then down and out. Nice clean corners. Now the next thing I'm going to have you do, the smoother the surface that you have, not a rough edge, this is rounded, so don't use those stamping blocks. This next step, you're going to use a big ball if you have one, or something that's got a nice round smoothed edge, because we're going to push that cardstock down into that hinge. If you use a sharp edge, you could tear this, but if you're going to use a ball, like your scoring tool, just be gentle, repetitive, firm and repetitive to keep it from tearing, because if you tear these, the only option you have at this point is to glue it, to seal it. Fold this up and we've got nice clean corners. All right, now let's work on putting in the actual pages. So the next step is you're going to cut a piece that is going to measure 6 inches across by 8 7/8 of an inch in height. This is a 9-inch album. I do not want to take my pages all the way from end to end. I don't like that look, so I'm coming in at 1/8 of an inch, which means I've got a 1/16 of an inch down on the top and on the bottom. And then this is going to get centered over that spine. So this is what it's going to look like. You're going to try as best as you can, you're going to balance this in between there. This is what our pages are going to attach to. So on this piece, we are going to, I don't know why I always turn the paper over. It should be irrelevant. Here, I'll force myself to do this. It's just bad habit, I think. 1/2 inch all the way around. So again, it's 6 inches wide by 8 7/8 in height. And now, this is where we put the tape, is in here. And we're just going to go from, where did I just, there it is. From the edge of the paper to the edge of the paper. We're not taking it all the way up because this will be addressed by this. So just put in a couple of strips here in the center, and then we're going to put 2 here on the outside of, on each panel. So now when this goes on here, you'll see that we've got a good coverage. If you want to put an additional 1/4 inch strip, I don't feel it's necessary. I've never had to do that. Because we're going to be covering over it anyway. All right. Easiest thing to do is to take that center strip out and then place this about 1/16 from the end, and then we'll burnish that in place, and then we can come in here and take the rest of this tape out. Now I'm just laying it down, easy contact. I am not pressing it down. I am not going to burnish this right now. And I'll show you why here in 2 shakes. Okay. Now we're going to take this tape off, and again, just a gentle tap of the cardstock to tack it down. We'll do the burnishing here in a minute, because there's another step you need to do before you should. Okay, now if I was to burnish this thing really hard right now, the next step I would not be able to do very successfully. But we're going to break this, find that hinge, and then we're going to push this cardstock back into that hinge. I want it down there with the emphasis on identifying this edge here of the cardstock. And we'll do it here. And there's a reason I want you to find where this chipboard edge is. Okay, now if I was to burnish now, this would not lay down straight. So we're going to lay this down. Now we're going to burnish, but I'm just going to do a little light burnish, and then I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to make sure that my gusset is still identified. And now I'll burnish it in. And this helps to get that cardstock down into your hinge. And then when you close this up, you get nice tight corners. Now, your pages. You'll be making 3 of them. Did I write the measurements on? There we go. They're going to measure 8 7/8 in height, because they're going to match the height of this panel here, by 9 5/8 in length. And then you're going to do a 5/8 score on the end. I like to have a 5/8 line between my pages so that as we do build-ups, the pages aren't smashing together. They have room and freedom to allow for expansion of photos being added, and that they're not going to be rubbing up against each other, hopefully. Now, this edge is what's going to follow just inside this hinge, and that's why it was important to identify this one. Not so much this one, but this one right here. So we're going to line this up, and we're going to add it in. And I'm only going to tack this down just ever so carefully, because I need to get the other 3 pieces, the other 2 pages put in to make sure that I'm level. Now see, I'm not. I cantered off that direction, so I need to pick this up, pull this back a little bit. There we go, that's better. Just gentle, gentle. And then we're going to tuck this edge here right up underneath this seam. And if we line them up correctly, they should fall. Beautiful. And then line these up. I think this one's is cantering off in a different direction. No, it's okay. Alrighty. We can burnish. Okay, so if that's my hinge line right here on the spine, I've got 5/8 here, 5/8 here, 5/8, and then this 5/8 here. So this allows for room for expansion and that they're not all rubbing against each other. And I do not cover these panels because we're going to be putting signatures on these. It's a waste of cardstock. So we're done. All right, so I will see you when we start playing with the outside of this. So until then, bye-bye.